What the guy learns is that as he gets older, he better also perform. That it's one thing for a woman to look around and say, one possible option in my life is to be a secretary or to be a receptionist. But if the man is a heterosexual, he doesn't look at the possibility of being a secretary or a receptionist because he hasn't observed from his life experience that a woman feels comfortable bringing home a secretary who's a male at Thanksgiving or Christmas and saying, guess what, Mom and Dad, I've met the man of my dreams. He's gentle, loving, open, vulnerable, kind, good-looking, sensitive, caring, and he's a secretary. Or a receptionist. She learns that she needs, that even if she personally were open to doing that, she'd get so much flack from her parents and from her women friends that she'd be pressured out of that. At the University of California School of Medicine, where I taught for a couple of years, I heard a story of a woman who was a medical doctor there who did in fact marry a technician, a male technician, and her parents said that if she followed through with the marriage that they would disown her. She followed through with the marriage anyway. She had 8 years of what I heard was a very happy marriage with that man, but just broke her heart that she lost the contact with her parents. His parents gave him a lot of negative feedback for being a potential gold digger. They got married anyway, married for 8 years, at which point she died of cancer. I don't know whether the cancer was related to that tension of losing her parents in essence while she did that. When she died of cancer, at her funeral, her parents informed him that they were going to sue for custody over the 2 children that the 2 of them had had. There's that much anger. Even when a woman wanted to break the societal norm and do something out of love, she got that pressure from her parents and in this case from her women friends as well. What the man learns from that is that unless I become successful, there won't be any what? There won't be any love. He learns that from his father. When his father starts worshiping the guy who's the football player, who's the successful quarterback with the successful end, and he feels that his father's loving the end and the quarterback more than him. He learns that from his mother, when the mother starts saying, gee, Jimmy got into medical school. I'm proud of my son, the doctor. But she never hears from mother, I'm proud of my son, the nurse, who dropped out of medical school because he saw it was taking too much time and he didn't have enough time for intimacy. What men learn in essence, we often say men are preoccupied with success or men are preoccupied with power. It would have been as accurate to say that men are preoccupied with love and they learn that there will be no love until they get power or success. That translates in some tough ways as we start thinking about commitment. One of the most frequently heard comments of our time is that men are afraid of commitment because men are afraid of intimacy or afraid of love. Let's look what happens in a man's unconscious mind when, let's say, a successful woman is over here, a successful man is over here, the 2 of them meet, they're contemplating getting married, they're thinking about having children in a few years. When children are about ready to come along, the successful woman often thinks to herself, I now have 3 options. Option 1 is to be a full-time career person while the children are born. Option 2 is to be full-time involved with the children once they're born, at least for 6 months or so on. And so, or option 3 is to do some type of juggling act. So for example, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics lets us know that women, when children are born, are 43 times more likely to take off from work for 6 months or longer to be involved with the children full-time than are their husbands. Usually they're involved for 6 months or longer full-time with the children, then they go back to work, sometimes part-time, sometimes full-time. 50% go back to work, 50% do not go back to work outside of the home. So what we have from the woman's perspective is 3 options. Option 1, work full-time. Option 2, full-time children. Option 3, some combination of both. The man looks at the world when children are about ready to arrive, and he says, I have 3 slightly different options. Option 1, full-time work. Option 2, full-time work. Option 3, full-time work. Or if he's a working class man, working double time or time and a half. Or if he's a upper middle class man, if he's a working class man, 2 jobs, a middle or upper class man, time and a half perhaps. What he learns basically is this phenomenon. The children come along, and for the first time in his life, he's seeing that not only can he love a woman, his wife, but also here's a chance for increased intimacy. But what happens, in fact, is when the children come, the woman increases her time with intimacy, which is why she can validly say, he's afraid of commitment, he must be afraid of intimacy, because when the children come, she increases her contact with intimacy. But he's 43 times more likely to be increasing his contact, not with intimacy, but increasing his contact with what? With the workplace, with economics. So his fear of commitment is not a fear of intimacy, it's often a fear that he will be deprived of the very intimacy he appears to be being promised during the courtship process, when, and especially when, if children come, he'll make not a juggling act, which the woman has. We have spent 20 years understanding the juggling act that women go through, juggling the children over here, the husband over here, the workplace over here. But no one has even mentioned the word that men have to deal with an act also, and that act is the male intensifying act, intensifying his commitment to the workplace when, for the first time in his life, the chance for increasing his commitment to intimacy comes. What happens for men and women is that they build up 2 different fantasies of the world. So we have men addicted to the image of beautiful women to such a degree that the best-selling magazines in the United States to men are number 1, Playboy, and number 2, Penthouse. Magazines to women in the United States, which are not Playgirl, not Viva, but they are what? Not Ms. Somebody said Better Homes and Gardens. Yes, Better Homes and Gardens. Good Housekeeping is right up there. Family Circle, right. Better Homes and Gardens and Family Circle, number 1 and number 2 best-selling magazines to women versus Playboy and Penthouse to men. So if Playboy and Penthouse to men represents men's primary fantasy, access to a lot of beautiful women without fear of rejection at a price they can afford, which is very different from men's primary need, which is what? Love and intimacy, which is so deep. Men's primary need of love and intimacy is so deep that men will marry anywhere on the socioeconomic spectrum if they find what they think of as love.